Okay, I'm a little rattled. I just got a call about my car's extended warranty is about to run out. And this is my last warning. I thought for sure I had safety stock, or at least more lead time. Guess I forecasted this one wrong. Oh well, let's get to it. Welcome. Another exciting episode of IBF On Demand. I'm your host, providing you 99.7% satisfaction and service level. Send your comments, your praises to Eric at IBF.org, Eric at IBF.org. Unless perhaps you're that 0.3% that are not satisfied, I may not want to exactly hear from you. So everybody else, make sure, send your comments, like, share, subscribe, all the things that you're supposed to be doing on these podcasts, these videos. Do it. We also have a sponsor, Arkiva, your one-plan S&OP software solution. I'm sure you're going to be 100% satisfied with them and the service they provide. So check out them at Arkiva. I also want you to check out IBF. This is IBF On Demand, part of Institute of Business Forecasting, the vast library of content of information we have available. Besides the Journal of Business Forecast, besides all the research we do, besides everything that we have available, we also have these podcasts. We also have a website called demand-planning.com. Check it out. It's a lot of blogs, articles written by practitioners, written by people like you, written by people you've seen on this show, including myself, that contribute often and frequently to this blog. It has articles from Jennifer. Recently saw her about how to get started in the first 100 days. Dan Seville just had a great article that came out not too long about top 5 things he learned starting in the profession of demand planning. So check out that article. There's a lot of great articles, I said, written by practitioners, written by subject matter experts for our field to foster the growth of demand planning, business forecasting, predictive analytics, S&OP, related fields. That's what we're about. That's what the Institute of Business Forecasting is about. That's what that blog's about. That's what this podcast is about as well. Today, we want to talk a little bit, not about the demand planning per se, but really one of the big uses of demand planning is driving inventory. Forecast a lot of times drives demand, which drives replenishment, which drives inventory. Here's some interesting facts. On average, the time it takes to sense and respond to demand, the time it takes to respond to true demand is on average 10.2 days. So a little over a week, almost 2 weeks it takes from when an order is placed or someone buys something before a replenishment order or a manufacturer or some kind of response on what you're going to do to replenish that takes place. Almost 2 weeks. Add to that, average lead times are well over 40 days. And this isn't counting, containers getting stuck in canals and shortages of containers and port, congestion. It's not counting all those things. This is the average lead times are over 40 days already. So what this means is the item that you have in stock right now most likely was planned over 2 months ago. So you don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 months. We do our best to forecast. There's going to be some uncertainty in there. And because of that uncertainty, because of those lead times, we end up with a byproduct in a lot of organizations called inventory. It's a necessary evil, but I really don't look at it as an evil. It's a necessary potential revenue generator. Because with that inventory, you have sales, you have revenue. So inventory is a necessity in organizations to be able to meet what the customer wants when they want it. Because of the unknowns, you end up with it. But the only good reason still to ever carry inventory beyond what your current needs are is because ultimately it's going to cost less to have it than to not. Why do we have inventory then? We talked about this. Yes, you're going to have it because you need to sell it, because you're going to have it in place because you don't know what exactly you need in place. Get on it. But there's other reasons why we have inventory. That's one reason. Other reasons why we have inventory in place, first of all, it's really used as anticipation. It's because you may have some constraints or you anticipate something that's going to occur in the future that's beyond your capabilities of providing it. So I can make 1,000 a month. I know in the summer, these hot summer months we're about ready to get into right now, that I'm going to need 2,000 in the month of July. Okay? I can't build 2,000 because it's above my constraint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build ahead. Lots of months or weeks ahead of time, I'm going to build full capacity. I'm going to build almost at capacity, build ahead. So that way, when July comes, I have the anticipated inventory in place. So it's used really anticipation for seasonality constraints, things of that sort, to be able to build ahead. It's also used to create efficiencies sometimes as well. This is what comes into lot sizing, economic order quantities, level loading, things that from a supply chain perspective are going to reduce my cost. So I can actually increase my inventory for the chance of decreasing cost. It may take advantage of discounts. I say it may take advantages of a work sale to be able to build more efficiently, less changeovers in manufacturing. A lot of different reasons, but it's all to create efficiencies. I said it could just be supplier policies. I have to order in lots of 10, and my minimum order quantity is 100. So I have to at least order 100, and then after that in lots of 10. I need 86. Well, guess what? I'm ordering 100. Those are reasons not only create efficiencies, but sometimes suppliers mandated to be able to have to bring in. Now, no matter what it is, I'm balancing that cost side with the cash or the inventory side as well with this. So with that, it's still, I'm looking, does it going to cost me less to carry it than not? Because a great example is on that, your minimum order quantity. What happens if I want to order 86? I may never sell the rest of them. Do I want to bring them into stock still? Or can I order less and pay a little bit more? Then it starts looking at trade-offs. Then it starts looking at what exactly is a good economic order quantity is what I'm looking at that point. And I'm balancing the cost of having it versus the cost of not. As we stated up front, though, one of the main reasons why we're going to carry inventory, and the one we're going to talk about the most today, is generally it's safety stock. It's to help meet or maximize customer service. I want to provide the best service as I can, the most cost effectively, and with the minimal amount of inventory I have. So it's to have enough inventory to help meet and maximize my service. And with that, I mean, let's be honest. If I was 100% accurate, which I said, I never say the forecast is wrong. But I also didn't say the forecast is 100% accurate either. So if by chance I was 100% accurate, if by chance everything worked perfectly in supply chain, if by chance we had 0 days of lead times, we wouldn't need any inventory. But guess what? That's not the world that I live in. You may live in that world. I want to see your business model, but that's not the world I live in. I'm not 100% accurate. Guess what? Everything does not work as exactly planned. Different quantities, different lead times, variable lead times. Everything doesn't work exactly as planned from a supply chain perspective. And guess what? Most of the time, when someone orders something, it's not the same day or same hour replenishment. There's some delay, on average 10.2 days, between when you get the signal of true demand, and a response occurs to that. So because of that, at least that 10 days, but more likely those 50, 60, 70 days that companies have to operate in, because of that cumulative lead time, because of what's happening as far as being able to respond, the uncertainty that is occurring, not only from the demand side, but the supply side as well, because of all that occurring, it brings us back to the need for inventory. So let's talk a little bit about inventory, what exactly it means, how do we communicate what we can do, and what our expectations are of carrying inventory. Because it's ultimately about balancing our expectations and cost. Actually, the way I prefer to look at it, it's about balancing our service with balancing our cash. And you could put cost in there as well. I mean, we did a one podcast a while back with Brahm about supply chain strategy and KPIs. Check out that podcast. It was a great podcast. He has a book, just newly released, second edition out. It's a great book on that. But it talks really about setting the strategy for your organization, because ultimately that's what you're doing here. It's about balancing cost, cash, and service. You will have a dominant strategy inside your organization. There's going to be one that's dominant. You may decide cash is king, and you're willing to forego a little bit of service or maybe increase your cost to be able to protect your cash side of it, because that's what inventory is. It is cash. It's inventory that's tied up you can't use for other acquisitions. It's inventory that's not making money for you when it's sitting in a warehouse. It only makes money when it gets sold. So if having it costs less than not, then you need it, have it in inventory. Or sometimes if the cost you more if you don't have it than if not. If you have to have 99% service level, guess what? That's your business strategy. You may have to carry a little bit more inventory. So what is the dominant? You're going to do all three: cost, cash, service. You're going to have a dominant strategy. So go back and check out that podcast. It's a great podcast. But ultimately what we're talking about is balancing that triangle. The balancing trade-offs is what we're doing. So let me give you a scenario. Your boss comes in and says, we need to maintain 98% or better service levels. Also, your boss, we need to reduce inventory immediately. We got to have at least 12 turns a year. Okay. Is that even feasible? What you should be asking is, can we do that? Is it meeting our strategy? Do we have the right business model to be able to achieve that service with that inventory? Those are the questions we should be asking. He's just telling you what he wants. It may be up to us to tell him what we can do and explain to him a little bit about what those trade-offs are. That's what we want to do. We want to unpack it and say, okay, based on our current SKUs, based on our current uncertainty, based on our current planning parameters, based on our lead time, based on everything we know, here's what our choices are. And that's one of the things I've actually done in the past. And I'd recommend you actually, looking at being able to understand the feasibility before you just start marching to an unrealistic expectation. It comes down to two things: one, safety stock, and a target stock. And a lot of times people forget about that second aspect. They focus heavily on a safety stock. And unfortunately, sometimes a computer generated safety stock that may not even be reasonable. But they focus on what this aspiration of a safety stock would be. And understand there's other things in play there as well. Basically, I'm not going to get into a lot of the complicated formulas out there. There's a lot of different ways you can calculate inventory, safety stock, go after targets. There's a lot of different distributions. I'm not going to get into the technical side. I'm not a technical person, if you haven't guessed from these podcasts. I want to give you practical advice and have a conversation. So with that, when we're talking about safety stock, very basically, I'm looking at service level times my demand at lead time, plus some kind of demand uncertainty, and plus some type of supply uncertainty in there. So if I take my demand uncertainty, supply uncertainty, what my demand over lead time is, what some type of service, multiply that by some type of service level I want to achieve, that gives me a safety stock, basically calculation. My target stock is something else that I need to be considerate of. My target stock is my safety stock plus minimum order quantity policies, what my lot sizing is, a lot sizing policy, if I'm doing any kind of economic order quantities, what my slow moving, my obsolescence items are. Because guess what? That's inventory you have. So what raw materials you have to carry sometimes, what, sometimes service parts, things of that sort, maintenance items, other items that you may have in the inventory. All those may make up your inventory bucket. So you can't just look at your safety stock. You have to look at what's some of the planning parameters I have as minimum order quantities, lot sizing, what my slow moving obsolescence are that I know I'm not going to get rid of. All those equal target stock. I actually utilized this graph right here. The graph you're looking at is actually a variable from Arkiva. When I was working in an organization, putting together an analysis, I actually utilized, they had Arkiva there. This was an output that they actually provided. And what you can see exactly gives that visual of what I just talked about. Because one of the things that the upper management, everyone really needs to understand, is we're not talking about a linear graph here. As you increase your service level, you're going to see inventory exponentially end up growing. Generally around the 95% and up, you generally start seeing that hockey stick occur. So what you can see here at the bottom is this is what the target, what the safety stock is going to be, and what the current safety stock level is, and what the current service level is. So you can see it would say your safety stock should be around, I'd say 95%, 93%, 90%, around about not 90% is where you're going to see your target safety stock is going to be. Above that's going to be your target stock. From the target stock, we're looking at the minimum order quantities, your lot sizing, all those things factored in. Factoring all those things in, you can see we're adding in about $5 million, $3, $4, $5 million worth of inventory. And you can see exactly where your target stock should be then as well. Also on this is currently where we are. We're currently sitting at 33 million at about 87% service level. So if we want to get above 90% service level and we want to look at reducing, we can actually reduce our inventory here just visually. I can say I can take off, anywhere from about $5 million worth of inventory and increase my service level out of the get-go. I can do this. But I have other options I want to look at as well. And that's ultimately what I did. I provided options because a 95 and above service, 98% and above service level and getting 12 terms was not one of the options. So what we had to do is figure out exactly what was our desired service level. What are the lead times? And by that example I just stated, our stated lead times was 97 days was the stated lead time in our system for most on average for items. When you actually looked at it, the observed lead times was 112 days was the observed average lead time. A lot of contract manufacturing from China. So they had long lead times. And that's actually more, talking with them now, their lead times have actually gone up significantly since then as well. So we needed to know what the desired service level was, what the observed actual lead times were, what the variability was or uncertainty is in both demand and supply. Then we talked about what some of the order strategies were, minimum order quantities, lot sizing, a lot of the order policies are, what those were that were concrete things you couldn't change, and then things you may be able to adjust, maybe pay a little bit more and get smaller lot size or minimum order quantities. But what was hard and fast and what things wasn't able to change as well. And then we also needed to know what inventory already existed that was slow moving or even obsolete items that we haven't written off the books yet. Items that sit in inventory that may take months, years to be able to get rid of, or you had to be able to discount them to be able to get rid of them sooner. So that's what we really needed to know going into this exercise. What we currently showed was we're sitting in about $36 million of inventory at an 80% fill rate. This included about $4 million of excess and about $6 million that was driven by minimal order quantities, lot sizing, order policies. And at the time, we had a mean absolute percentage error at lag 3, which was probably needed to look at a lag 4 or 5, but a lag 3, mean absolute percentage error of about 74%. With this, putting that information into the system, it gave us back the results of a couple different options. Number one, I can reduce inventory by $5 million. We can look at a $31 million of inventory at a 90% fill rate, including a $1 million reduction in excess, MOQs, lot sizing, things that low-hanging fruit we knew we could do. So about a $1 million reduction there. Also, it was decreasing our mean absolute percentage error from a lag 3 from a 74% to a 68%. So a lot of this was driven not by lead time reductions, not by anything else, simply by a forecast error reduction. We were able to reduce by $5 million. Option 2, though, was an interesting one because I said we didn't care as much about service as we did cash. So since cash was a more of a dominant strategy for this organization, option 2 said, okay, I can reduce inventory to $27 million. This is a $9 million reduction of inventory. But our service level, we're just going to maintain our current service level that we're providing, 87% service level. So maintaining service level 87% with the same $1 million low-hanging fruit reductions in excess and same mean absolute percentage error reduction to 68%. So same other parameters, but by going to 87%, we now had a $27 million of inventory, targeted inventory. In addition, what our recommendations were, okay, we can reduce some of our minimum order quantities, our lot sizing that we do. I can reduce additional $3 million of inventory. It's going to cost us 1% margin and reduce 1,000 and the other. So by a $3 million reduction in inventory, by working on MOQs, lot sizing, it's going to cost us a 1% margin. The other thing we could do as well, recommended reducing items by 1,000 items. They had 8,000 items because they had a lot of different brands, a lot of SKU proliferation. Reducing items by 1,000 would actually decrease my mean absolute percentage error by 2%, which was an additional $1 million of inventory. So ultimately, increased cost margin by 1%, reduced inventory SKUs by 1,000, saved us about $4 million. We decided to go with the 80% service level and a $27 million. So ultimately, we were down to about $23 million of inventory at an 80% service fill rate, opposed to the $36 million we had before. So it was a win. Ultimately, going through this exercise, we was able to present scenarios that the top executives could then figure out, and they could get their heads around and understand those trade-offs based on what our desired service level was, what our lead times were, what our variability and uncertainty was, both demand and supply, what our order policies were, how they were affecting us from a cost and cash and service, and then what the inventory we already had in place, our slow-moving and obsolescence products we had. So it gave us a grasp of how we could manage our business better, how we could manage the inventory we had in place to help balance that triangle. And it was a discussion back to the strategy of the organization: cost, cash, service. We ended up impacting cost negatively. We decided to maintain our service down to 87%. The biggest impact was that third part of the triangle, which fit the strategy of the organization of freeing up well over $10 million of inventory. So ultimately, it comes down to different things you can do to help balance that triangle. And just a little quick side note, I do want to mention this because this is an important aspect for a lot of people that's going through this exercise. Because you may be going through this exercise right now trying to figure out, after COVID, what inventory should we have in stock? How can I reduce my inventory but still improve my service? You may be asking these same exact questions. What I actually did for that organization, what I'm talking about, that goes into the bucket of consulting. IBF actually does consulting. I can actually come in, and if you are asking those questions and you get hung up and everything I told you now wasn't enough and you wanted a little bit more, you want a little bit more of going in depth of figuring out exactly what that safety stock, what the target inventory levels are. You want to go through that exercise. You want to have that discussion of what the trade-offs are. Happy to help you. Looking at it from a demand, inventory, targets, impacts. IBF actually does consult. You can find more information at ibf.org. Look at the advisory services. Hire me. Come in. Have that discussion one-on-one. We can see exactly what we can do for your organization. So check out ibf.org. Go to the advisory page and find out exactly what we have to offer you. With that, I do want to leave you with these kind of parting thoughts of here. If you do want to reduce your safety stock, if you want to reduce how much inventory you have, there are different things you can look at doing now. Some strategies for reducing needed safety stock. Number one, the obvious one is reduce uncertainty. I said this can be demand. I can reduce my forecast error. I can reduce supply. It could be self-inflicted as well. It could be different promotions you're running. Whatever it is, reducing your uncertainty. On average, a 1% reduction in mean absolute percentage error equals approximately about 0.6, 0.7% in safety stock. So it's almost a 1-to-1, about 2/3 or 3/4 reduction of safety stock for every 1% reduction in MAPE. You could also reduce your lead times. I mentioned they had a long lead times. That was the biggest reason why they had inventory, was lead times. Reducing lead times on average, every 1% reduction on average of lead time is about 1%, 0.95% reduction in safety stock. So it's almost a true 1-to-1 for every 1% in lead time, 1% in safety stock. SKU rationalization, I mentioned that was a strategy as well. On average, 10% reduction in items is going to be about a 3% reduction in MAPE. The more items you have, guess what? The more uncertainty you have, because the same demand spread out over more items. So it goes to say, as we reduce items, you risk pool, in essence, is what you're doing, and you end up reducing you reduce that uncertainty. So a 10% reduction in items is going to reduce uncertainty by about 3%, which is then going to be almost a 2% reduction in safety stock. So every 10% in reduction of items is about 2% reduction in safety stocks. There's other things beyond that you can look at as well. Maximize your nodes and buffers. Plan out where your inventory is better. Plan out your buffers and be more of a pull than you are a push. Look at synchronizing opposed to optimization. Decrease your minimum order quantities, your lot sizing. Could be at the expense of cost. Do that exercise. See if it makes sense. But decreasing your minimum order quantities, your lot sizing can be, things that are creating efficiencies also create inventory sometimes as well. Terms of ownership. When do you take ownership? Looking at VMI strategies, looking at take ownership at our port instead of their port. Different ways you can decrease your inventory by looking at your terms of ownership. Increasing the cost of expediting. Hey, if I would air freight everything in, I can reduce my inventory. Guess what? There's cost to that. But you can actually do that trade-off. Sometimes with some items, it may cost you less to go ahead and expedite it when you need it than carrying it in inventory. You can increase your customer lead times. Instead of servicing them 24, 48 hours, if you increase that to a week, you may be able to decrease your inventory. Of course, they may not want that. It's a trade-off, service and inventory. You're looking at trade-offs. Assemble to order policies, or you can lower your own service and expectations. I can go from what the boss said we wanted 98% service level to an expectation of we're only going to hit 87% service level. I lowered our expectations, but guess what? we hit the strategy of the organization. Well, I'm not going to lower my service level. I'm not going to lower your service expectations out there, but I am going to come to an end of another IBF On Demand. This is IBF On Demand. My name is Eric Wilson. You can find me at eric@ibf.org, eric@ibf.org. We do have a sponsor, Arkiva, your one-plan S&OP software solution. I said they do a lot with inventory as well. One of the slides I showed you was actually an output from their system as well. So check out Arkiva. They can help you with your inventory problems then as well, help you with the optimization of inventory and exactly what those trade-offs would be. Me, myself, I'm going to go figure out that extended car warranty that I didn't even know I had, figure out exactly why it's my last notice, which I don't really think it is. They keep on trying to call me, so I'm going to figure out that one. But in the meantime, check out other podcasts, check out IBF, and don't forget, wash your hands.